Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dylan, I'm your host, and after being in the construction industry for the last 15 years, I can't believe I'm saying 15 years, but 15 years and doing over $1 billion in construction projects, commercial projects, industrial projects, uh, I plan on sharing with you all that I've learned. That's what this podcast is all about, sharing my lessons, my tips, my tricks, everything that I've learned over the last 15 years in the industry. And today, I want to share kind of a lesson that was um, really not apparent until I was traveling here this last week. So I was down in Houston for an event and conference, and on my way back, flight was delayed, sitting at the bar having a drink as I was, basically extracting from my little Kindle Scribe and pushing all that over to a text document, proposals and stuff that I was working on. Since I didn't have Wi-Fi on the plane, I just long wrote it by hand. Do a lot of writing that way. And as I'm sitting there at the bar, this elderly couple was next to me, and apparently they were just waiting for their flight. They were there like 4 hours early or something, because their, I think, daughter had to drop them off or whatever early for it. But in sitting there was one, how kind of unique, rare, like business owners, entrepreneurs, like people going after it truly are in the world. Like if you're on the internet, it probably does not seem that way. The like entrepreneurs and business owners are like a rare breed. But in all honesty, like you are, right? If you're really running a business, if you've got employees or got people working with you, it's a very like rare thing. It's I think 6-7% of the population in total. So there's just not many people that are going after it. Two is like, here I am, it's a Friday night. At this point, it's like 6-7 o'clock. I'm sitting at the bar. Yeah, I'm having a drink, but like I'm actively working, like putting proposals together. And that's also something apparently that's lost, right? Is like one, it's a work trip, which I mean, tons of people travel for work, but two, that you're actually working during the work trip, right? You're not just kind of hanging out, doing nothing as you travel from place to place, right? Like I'm actively working, actively doing stuff. And it was kind of pointed out as I was sitting there, talking to this elderly couple as they're preparing to go to Europe, that like this is kind of unique, right? Like, one, somebody runs their own business. Two, like actually working late or on the flights, anything like that. And that's pretty much anymore. Like when I travel, especially for work, not necessarily like with my wife, but even then, still, it's like for flights, it's I get to the airport. Now, this is me on my own, not necessarily with my wife, because she would have a like conniption if we cut every flight this close. But like this last flight, getting to the airport, I got there when boarding started. Is when I walked through the TSA pre-check line. Got a burrito while everyone, like the pre-boards and all that, are going after it. And so like that is how close I cut all of my flights, right? I don't check any bags. I get to the airport, walk through security, and basically walk on the plane. So there's like no time delay between anything, which sometimes is a little scary, especially if you hit some unexpected traffic. Like I don't leave too much of a buffer in there for everything that I do, and especially because I have a 2 hour and 10 minute drive to the airport. So from my house, so like sometimes I probably should leave a little more in there, but most of the time I cut it pretty close. Like, and the same thing, leaving this last go around, or coming home, like I had maybe 15-20 minutes between the time I walked through security, which I did need to check a bag on the way back, and the time I walked onto the plane, right? So most of that was like get in through security, go to the bathroom, get in line to board the plane, right? Like I had just and walk to my gate, right? It was like a 10-15 minute walk to my gate in Houston, because that airport is just massive. So like a lot of this, it came out that, look, you gotta, one, I cut so much time out. Two, I'm trying to maximize every piece of it. And even like for our executive assistant, I'm putting together like all my travel preferences and itineraries and like how close I cut stuff. I'm like, yeah, basically give me 90 minutes from the time the plane is scheduled to land and plus whatever travel time it is for me to be wherever I'm supposed to be. And that is building in some delay because there's some things that I can't control from the airlines, and then deplaning, walking through the airport, getting the rental car. And for the most part, like Enterprise and National are pretty awesome about the rental car piece, and like you can just walk out, or like it's pretty easy on that side of it. But you want to build in some buffer for like those things that you can't control so that you can, again, get to where you need to on time, or especially if somebody else is like booking your travel, to maximize all those timepieces. And it's even like, hey, depending on what we're doing or meetings that we have on the way out, like, yeah, put me on the 6 o'clock flight to wherever we're going, especially traveling from west to east. Like, I'm going to lose 2 to 3 hours getting there. So like for this upcoming trip I have to Chicago, I'm going to leave at 6:15 a.m., which means I'm getting up at 3 o'clock to leave, or I'm leaving my house at 3. So I'm getting up at like 2:30 to leave my house at 3 to get to the airport at 5, to get on the plane at 6, to be there at 3, to then have dinner with a client at 5, right? Like that's how tight that's all booked. But that maximizes like the full day, right? There's no time wasted in that day. And then the next day, like, hey, book me meetings with, these guys. And then I'm going to go and shoot with this client. We're going to go trap shoot. And then the next day is the clay shoot for the association. So we'll be at that all day. Then the next day, book me another morning meeting. And then I have a 3 o'clock flight out of Chicago. And so, hey, I need to be there at 2. Like, figure the rest of that out, but book meetings, right? And so you want to maximize the time that you have for any trip. Again, like I leave early, leave out, late on the other side of it, so that every kind of minute of that travel time is booked. And then you sleep when you can. You'll find some downtime in there, and that looks like a packed schedule to most people, and it's like not for the faint of heart, for sure, in how I travel. But we're going to maximize all the time that we have out of this, and that's what it is, right? Like if you have then a half a day, and goes for like vacations too, if you have like a half a day on Sunday to like rest and recover when you get home, typically that's going to be like pretty good for most people. But it's all in maximizing like everything that you do so that you're able to effectively get more achieved, right? Maximize the time that you have. And this goes for like any sort of travel, but also for like conferences, right? Is to, again, with Houston, we went in there, got in there late that night. My business partner and I had time to basically us without clients to go through stuff. Then, it was a 6:30 breakfast meeting. So we were up and, there at 6, left 5:45 from the hotel, got to the event, was there till like 9:30, 10, made some phone calls, and then met another kind of distribution partner for like a late lunch, head to the airport, go home, right? Like that is how much we maximized and packed in this trip. So for a lot of this, for conferences, meetings, travel, like fill it up. You're there for only a certain amount of time, especially when it comes to travel and going and seeing clients. So make sure that you maximize like those efforts, and being around clients and going to conferences and booking meetings. Like that's the whole point of this, is to go and see people. So the more that you're able to do that and maximize that time, the better off you're going to be. And the other thing that it comes to, like for time blocking, and when I think about time, right, it's not just like travel and that piece, right? That was just a kind of an eye-opening experience talking to this elderly couple. I'm sitting there at the bar, but also like just in general, how I talk to people about travel. It's like when you start to really explain this and outline it and how much is packed in, right, it gets kind of overwhelming. So to each their own, but that's how I go about travel. But when I talk about time blocking is really what I've learned here and doing a bunch of travel, having a bunch of like boards that I sit on, those board meetings that happen, going to these other kind of conferences, is a lot of the time like, look, my phone is either like yesterday I was sitting in a conference for boards, and one of those or during this meeting, like my phone kept going off. I should have just put it in airplane mode and been done with it, but here we are. Is like, look, I'm not going to be able to get to you, right? Like, just not. I will call all of you back when this thing is done. When really I left a little early because I could just feel the pressure building of everybody calling. And they ran over time, so it's like, hey, I'm only going to be here till whatever, 12:30, 1 o'clock. Like, you kind of went over. Here we are. So in that, like, a lot of people, they're calling you. Yes, they need you. Is it a burn down the house, need something turned around immediately? Most of the time, no. However, getting to them, you answer in their phone call, it's nice. People feel good about it, right? At the same time, like, you can call them back. And so as much as this is for you guys and me recording this on the podcast, like, I also feel guilty when I don't answer those phone calls, when I'm not, responding immediately to emails. And it's something that I have to continually learn, that in like time blocking my days, allocating the time to like record this content, to post, this content, to put up my thoughts, to consolidate thinking around like strategic planning, offers, how we go to market, who we're going to attract for, software, how we talk to engineers, how we talk to contractors, how we do all of this, is the big levered activities that really I have to spend more time on. All the client work, everything else is super important. Like, that has to get done. But at the same time, there's ways to kind of time block that in. And honestly, too, like, I have to be better on the phone and kind of getting off with people. But I like to be thorough and explain like what's happening, what's going on, some of the backstory if they don't know it or might not know it. I try to, again, emphasize, or not emphasize, but like I try to explain that to them so that like they feel better about the whole process, what's going on, and not just like, quick, short, choppy pieces to where it's like I'm trying to get them off the phone, right? That's not the intention there, just to help them. But at the same time, like, I've just got to be better about some of that and getting more to the point without, all the probably superfluous explanations, right? They just want their stuff. But again, I feel that helps maintain client relations, talking to them, spending more time with them. It helps kind of through everything. But is ultimately like time blocking your stuff, right? Like, even for this, I'm getting better about putting my phone in like focus mode and not allowing people to get through, except by like wife and business partner on stuff. That's it, right? Like, is nobody's going to get through. I'll deal with it once I'm done with my task and get back to it. And then the other one that I want to say in like time blocking for a lot of this is like getting rid of your phone is hugely important. Like, for me in posting like content, I find that being on the desktop application for like LinkedIn, Instagram, things like that, reduce my time on it for whatever reason, right? I'm sure that's engineered somehow. But like the desktop app, I'm more apt to like go in, do what I need to do and get off of it versus like spending, too much time scrolling and doom loop through everything else. So use desktop tools like whenever possible to do a lot of this stuff. It'll help you tremendously in saving time. And then lastly, like phone and email, like they are distractions first and foremost, right? Your email, I've heard somebody say, is just a public to-do list. And so trying to manage that, or ultimately getting like an executive assistant or somebody to manage that, is ultimately the way. Now there's going to be some AI assistants probably to help you do some of that stuff, and thinking through how you categorize, sort, segment emails, how you get back to people, all that kind of good stuff are there. But for now, most of that is just a distraction. to what you need to do. Now, obviously, you got to check email, you got to respond to people, you got to be timely in how you do all this. But it's one of those, like, as we are growing, as we're hiring, as we've got new employees, like, we're expanding the business, we're doing more and more stuff, more outreach to clients, expanding into new territories and markets. Like, my time has been more constrained than ever, right? Traveling more, flying more, going to more events, more involved locally in the community, just a lot, right? I've signed up for all of it. Like, this is the life that I choose to live. And so my time has been more constrained. So I start thinking more about time, like how to maximize it. What should I be doing? What should I hand off to people? What should, what can I be doing to maximize my time, maximize my efficiency? What's the biggest lever to go after? And really, until my time was this constrained, I hadn't thought maybe this heavily about it. But it's one of those where the more you have these constraints, the more you think about it, the more you want to offload, the more you need help with stuff, the more that you want to just become more efficient with the things that you end up doing. So, like, delegation is a must when it comes to a lot of this, but it's also, again, just prioritization of the things that are going to move the needle the most. And I should have been doing this more a long time ago and really picking the biggest needle movers I could to get the most out of whatever it is that I'm doing. But when you kind of have the time, you don't prioritize things as much. So for me, it's been a real kind of uptick in what I delegate, how I think about, the biggest lever movers, how I start to use different tools and technology and AI and automation to really increase the output that I have. What can be given to somebody else? What do I need to think strategically about? What content do we need to create? What sales letters do we need to write? And then all of this gets into a schedule, and the more that I can stick to that schedule and time blocks of what I do when, the more productive I'm going to be, the more that I can singular task focus on whatever's going on versus, answering a call that interrupted my workflow or the project I need to get out. The more productive I am going to be, which is ultimately why you end up working nights and weekends is to get that quiet time and undistracted time away from kind of everybody else so that you can do what needs to be done. This is ultimately why most people work those nights and weekends, to get that stuff done. But if you have a way, like, during the workday, to ultimately remove those distractions, time blocking your calls and getting back to people, the better off you're going to be. So again, I mean, people do like you getting back to them quickly, when they have time for you to respond to them. But at the same time, like, you got to protect your own energy and productivity and ability to perform, because that's ultimately what you're getting paid for. So guys, again, maximize your time, right? If you're traveling, maximize the number of meetings, the things you're doing. I've seen so many people just, like, waste so much time in travel and going places. They're not booking their meetings out. They're not really pre-planning their weeks and time for wherever they're going to be. The same goes for, like, conferences and events. Plan out that, have meetings booked, like, really go hard when it comes to all this. Have time blocking, schedule stuff within it, prioritize, the most important things, and then around your energy, right? Like, I didn't cover this, but, things that you can do, like booking travel and all that stuff. If you're still doing it, like, do that at night. Don't do that during, like, the workday. Do it at night when you can just, like, sit in bed and book travel, right? It's not a big brain processing task, but it does take time. So again, if you're booking your own stuff, do that stuff at night. Don't do it during the day. It'll help you a ton. And then again, remove distractions, schedule stuff in, and delegate when you can, if you're at that point to where you have teams to delegate things to, but understand who it should be delegated to, how you can delegate, and ultimately maximize your productivity. So that is this episode of the Construction Corner podcast. Until next time.